Hello indie game fans, the Steam Next Festival is live, so here are some of the most interesting indie games that I could find, beginning with Onikura, a 2D pixel art boss rush action title with a Japanese theme, in which you play as a Kenshin looking guy and battle some powerful demons known as Oni. You have to master the parry as well as special charge attacks, being able to heal in a manner similar to Hollow Knight, and thus have permanent upgrades and special talismans to equip, and sure looks like a challenge. Another pixel art title which I have my eye on is Spirit Mancer, coming to us from a developer out of Thailand, which is relatively rare, in which this is a vibrant action platformer with, surprisingly, monster taming and deck building elements. You can build up your deck of spirits, which take the form of cards in your hand, which you can then call upon in real-time combat, using their power to fight against demons and to stop an evil queen. Looking absolutely gorgeous and is releasing very soon. This video is brought to you by Mini City Mayhem, a self-described chaos-filled city builder that gives you the task of building as quickly as possible. Yes, it goes in the opposite direction of those relaxing city builder titles by adding a time pressure to everything, and has an interesting construction system as well, since you need to lay the foundation of your city brick by brick in a manner similar to Lego. There is a method to the madness, since buildings need to be connected in a thoughtful way, such as residences to companies and even public services, with some levels based on real-world locations like London, Tokyo or Hong Kong, in addition to fantasy ones, and zigs where others have zagged, so check out the demo and wishlist on Steam. Speaking of Steam, how about Steampunks, a 2D hand-drawn run-and-gun action platformer that takes inspiration from Mega Man X, but does kind of look like Metal Slug or Contra to me. You play as one of the elite enforcers of the mayor, sent to take on the Bowler gang in order to save the city from destruction, having a cool steampunk setting, and thus layer on additional systems like crafting alchemy shells for your weapon. The developers also talk about some Metroidvania inspiration, but don't exactly say that it's a Metroidvania, so I have put it in the action platformer category for now. Chinese developer Cotton Game is known for their puzzle and adventure games, which usually come with gorgeous art, and that is exactly the case here with the Lilliput Workshop, a sandbox logic puzzle game with an almost handcrafted wooden toy style to the visuals. You are messing around with and designing automata in this game of using a track system to guide a train to deliver blocks to their destination, and will be familiar to fans of Space Camp, or if you have messed around with Minecraft redstone circuits, also allowing you to easily design and share puzzles and levels with other players. They hope to capture some of that same childlike wonder when you were just building with blocks as a kid, and as someone with a toddler myself, I can vouch that it is indeed still fun even if you're older. Here's a game that just has an awesome title named X-Ghost, which I have complimented the developer on before, being an arcade-style puzzle game that has you vanishing hordes of monsters. However, this is not an action puzzler like Puzzle Bobble, where you're using physics to bounce shots into the right place, but is a puzzle strategy title instead, since you can use cards to manipulate the field of monsters, blowing up large interconnected groups of the same monster to clear them, and looks strategic and fun. Another game with a killer look is The Void Project, an arena-based first-person shooter that is technically set in a simulation but has you facing off against all sorts of demons, being a leaderboard chase kind of game where you have to defeat enemies as quickly as you can, and releases very soon.
They want to stop you, to keep you from...
A cool, weird-looking title is Tower of Madness, a third-person horror adventure platformer where you play as a cowboy who is compelled by an insidious voice in his head to climb an inverted floating tower, which is inspired by Stephen King's The Dark Tower. The gameplay involves exploration and gravity inversion, in which the dialogue choices matter and you have to gather keys to unlock new areas, with quicktime events as well, although it stops short of combat and is perfect for this time of year. here's another game which is all art style, since Button Man is pretty much a comic book made into a video game, down to the dithering on the background and objects to give them that classic look. Set in a fictional version of Nova Scotia during Prohibition, you play as the henchman to a local kingpin whose life is turned upside down when your boss is murdered, so it is up to you to figure out who did it and to protect the town from what's coming. It mixes adventure exploration, where you walk around the town and talk to the locals, with beat-em-up action, also having a reputation and mental health system, and looks pretty unique. JRPG fans, this might be of interest, since Splintered is a throwback title with 8-bit visuals going back to the early Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior games, but does have its own twist. The king is dead and a legendary artifact stolen by the enemy, so as the son of a legendary knight, it is up to you to get revenge. But defeating the villain is only one part of the story. You see, the villain, when defeated, will splinter and randomize the world layout and roll back time, so you need to complete the quest once again, but with your equipment misplaced and enemies now having new and random traits and abilities. As such, this provides variety while not exactly being a roguelite despite procedural generation, although there is such a permadeath mode, but for fans of the classic genre, do check this out. The bottom of the screen idle management game has exploded in popularity after the success of Rusty's retirement, and one which I have my eye on is Dino Market, an adorable looking title where animal friends are running stalls in the market and has light crafting elements. There are built-in productivity tools like timers and a to-do list, as well as plenty of upgrades idle game style, and if you're a content creator, has Twitch and YouTube integration that allows you to interact with chat, and is on the list simply because it looks adorable. A title with a cool, almost cel-shaded kind of art style on the main characters is Candy Rangers, also being in a genre that you don't see every day in the on-rails shooter, where you have to match the 4 colors to the 4 rangers in order to attack enemies or to interact with oncoming hazards and obstacles. As such, this looks to be rather unique and I don't quite know what to make of it, but lucky us, that is the purpose of this event, since demos will be available, so give it a try if you're curious.
You're not here to slay monsters, you have a drive to express yourself. So, you set up your own cozy little shop in a back alley.
From the developer of Death and Taxes comes CraftCraft Fantasy Merchant Simulator, the self-styled RPG merchant sim with actual crafting. Yes, you are essentially running a shop that can customize items and equipment for the locals, but allows you to explore your creativity by manually placing parts into the template and even painting them, handcrafting every piece as compared to hitting buttons in the menu. As such, there is a tactile feel to this game and layers on the NPC interaction found in games like Valhalla, since you will get to know these characters, befriend or even romance them, and looks cozy. Another pixel art JRPG of interest is Frameland, A Binary Tale, which does have an active combat system where you have to time your attacks for maximum impact. Honestly, the gimmick is not anything new and has been done as far back as in the Mario and Luigi RPG games on GBA, as well as modern indie games like Bug Fables, but maybe they will have an interesting twist. The pixel art is alright and is set in a world overrun by hostile machines, but tells the story from 2 perspectives, which could be interesting. I swear that the music used in this trailer for Flora and Fang, Guardians of the Vampire Garden, is some form of altered Mario music. Head on over to the Steam page to hear it properly, where it is not exactly copyright infringing, I think, but is still an interesting choice. This is an arcade action platformer in which you are shooting at enemies to protect the single-screen pumpkin patch against giant insects and bosses, looking similar to titles like Super Crate Box and could be cool. We have not 1 but 2 Mega Man inspired titles in this list, the second of which is Blaster Boy. which you can quite clearly see from the Mega Buster equivalents and the sound effects, where this is a 2D boss rush action platformer but with multiple playable characters, being able to unlock secret boss fights as well as other game modes like Gauntlet, where you don't recover health in between fights and has a good look. If you love pixel art titles, another one to watch is Wings of Endless, an action-adventure RPG platformer in which you play as a young bounty hunter and his friends, seemingly switching between them in combat to use their different abilities. It's a stereotypical story setup where a routine task morphs into an epic adventure, but the demo should allow you to experience more of the action platforming gameplay with a focus on combos. There is a light crafting system that allows you to mix and match ingredients to create potions with a good pixel art look as well. Developer Hammer and Ravens have been around for a little while, with 3 games on Steam dating back to 2018, and their next title is Ale Abbey, a time management game in which you are building and expanding your monastery while uncovering the secrets to brew holy ale. If you've never been to Europe, you might be surprised to know about this, since yes, monasteries did double as breweries in some places. This mixes the management construction aspect of creating living quarters, libraries and more, with the underground cellars and brewery rooms having to decide when to sell the ale or to store and age it for higher value down the line, having a vibrant pixel art style and a good amount of hype. We also have a Metroidvania of interest here in Souno's Curse, one that was kickstarted a little while ago, and I'm not the one to say it this time around, okay, Celery Paints 5360, since the developers are the one to say that it is inspired by Hollow Knight and Journey. Visually, the hand-drawn art looks a lot sharper and quite pretty actually, although I do wonder how readable the game will be, telling a story about regret and living in the moment, so YOLO the game I guess, as you delve into a cursed cave and uncover the secrets behind the curse. Now this next title could be something special, since the developer of HARK the GHOUL kindly shared the game on Twitter with me, and having taken a look, I have to share this game with you. It is a first-person title inspired by Dark Souls and Hollow Knight. Again, Celery Paints 5360, the developer's words not mine, in which you are slashing, kicking and making your way through this adventure. Of course, being a first-person Souls-like, maybe this has some Kingsfield influence as well, since the dungeon design is interconnected with shortcuts leading back to earlier areas. This has you descending deeper and deeper into the bowels of the earth to uncover the secret of the dungeon, looking pretty foreboding, and while the throwback visuals might not be for everyone, I do think that it looks absolutely sick in this case. Another fan favourite title from my summer showcase is the Edge of Allegoria, a turn-based RPG that kind of looks like Pokemon meets Dragon Quest, but it's no kids game, where the retro throwback pixel art and colour scheme is more than meets the eye. For one, you are travelling around and taking things into your own hands by beating down these monsters, having a mastery system which levels up your skills and equipment the more you use them. It has violence and coarse language with a dose of pixelated booty, so definitely not for kids, and maybe with a projected Q4 2024 release window, we will get a release date after the festival. Developer Odin Cat is based out of Japan and have made interesting titles such as Fishing Paradiso and Max Monster, where I expected Mouse Busters to be a similar kind of turn-based RPG, but apparently this has much more variety in gameplay. You play as a mouse living in a cursed building, having to bust ghosts in order to save the tenants. The one gameplay clip in this trailer shows off side-scrolling defense-style action, with the rest of the game being more JRPG-style walking and talking, and does seem to have survival horror-style puzzles and exploration as well, despite the cute pixel art, where things really do take a dark turn in this trailer and will be for fans of the genre. One look at Tower of Clement, and yes, millennial gamers will know exactly what they are going for, since this is pretty much Diablo 1 in all but name, the classic must-play action RPG that spoiled many amounts in the 1990s. I played Diablo 1 when I was probably not supposed to, since I was under the recommended age rating, but it was pretty pixelated and wasn't all that terrifying, although the butcher's introduction of fresh meat still sits with me to this day. Now, given that the Diablo franchise in 4, as well as modern equivalents like Path of Exile 2, are moving in the high-fidelity graphics direction, it was only a matter of time that indie developers zigged and went the other way. You will notice a more deliberate pace to the combat, since it slows things down and doesn't spam you with the same number of enemies, so whether you're looking for the nostalgia hit like me, or have not played the original and want something different, this is certainly one to try. Another neat looking pixel art title is The Good Old Days, one that does have scan lines in the trailer, which I don't know if I will be able to turn off since I'm not a fan, but it is almost Earthbound but as a Metroidvania. You play as a young boy and his friends, delving into the depths of the city to find treasure so that he can repay his father's debts, which you can clearly see by the counter at the top of the screen at all times. As such, it's a different kind of Metroidvania, which makes it especially interesting since you're not motivated by delving in to battle a great evil to save the kingdom or anything, but can be more pragmatic about things, even running away from enemies and not fighting if not needed, and gives me a little bit of a La Mulana feel. One of the most promising entries in the Souls-like genre is AI Limit, a very pretty looking title set in a sci-fi post-apocalypse, which is under the PlayStation China Hero project, so maybe it's not so much of an indie game, but still it looks pretty awesome. The last city of mankind is named Heavenswell, but this is post the fall of civilization, where a mysterious substance known as the Mud has spread across the world, which caused monsters to emerge. You play as a humanoid but not human character known as a Blader, who can respawn after death, how convenient, as she searches for and has to repair the branches of the city in order to save it. Bosses come in the form of warriors who have lost their mind and have mutated into these terrifying enemies, and come on, it's an anime Souls-like, so of course there's hype around this.
Proceed with courage.
One of the prettiest upcoming Metroidvanias is Somber Echoes, a dark sci-fi entry set on board an abandoned Greco-Roman spaceship that has become infested with horrors from an unknown dimension. The main character in this story are a pair of twin sisters, in which our heroine is one of them and must prevent her sister from unraveling the universe, but has to discover answers as to why she is doing so as you explore. This has some Souls-like influence, since you can parry enemy attacks, so maybe sci-fi grime, but drawing inspiration from Greek mythology and tragedies, and looks pretty awesome. Watch this video for more Steam Next Fest coverage.